Hello, Christopher George here. How you doing? Thanks so much for tuning in, and I've got a really special guest for you, Dr. Bill Andrews. Just to give you an idea of how important this guy is and what he's done here, I'm going to read you a bit of his bio and background. His discoveries are being touted as the world's biggest medical breakthrough to date that will lead to cures for many age-related and non-age-related diseases. One of the most highly respected scientists in the USA, described as the man who would stop time by Popular Science magazine. He has been featured on the Today Show, BBC, NBC, and HBO documentaries. As one of the principal discoverers of both the RNA and protein components of human telomerase, Dr. Andrews was awarded second place as United States Inventor of the Year in 1997. He is also a named inventor on 45 U.S. patents on telomerase and author of numerous scientific research studies published in peer-reviewed journals. Dr. Andrews, who at 61 is an ultra-marathon runner, has focused his research on finding ways to extend the human lifespan and health span through telomerase maintenance. His work received the 2009 Nobel Prize for Medicine. He is the founder and CEO of Sierra Sciences, the world's only research facility dedicated solely to telomere research. He is an all-around nice guy and very generous with his time as well, I might add. I'm just going to go get him on the line now, and we'll be right back. Dr. Andrews, thank you so much for joining me. It's an honor to meet you.
Well, thank you very much. I'm honored to be here.
So how long have you been involved in telomere research?
It was the mid-1990s, so I guess that's close to 20 years ago now.
20 years, so it's been a long time. Okay, let's jump right in. What is the difference between a telomere and telomerase?
Well, telomerase is an enzyme, but let me start off with defining what a telomere is. Telomeres are found at the tips of your chromosomes. And your chromosomes are things that are found inside your cells, and it's where all your genes are that give you your hair color, your eye color, make some of you tall, make some of you short, etc. The chromosome contains a DNA molecule, a single DNA molecule that's really long. It's measured in units called bases, and a telomere or a chromosome is about 100 million bases in length. Now, the very tips of the chromosomes are called the telomeres. So what I want you to think about is a shoelace. A shoelace is kind of like a chromosome. It's long. Chromosomes are long like shoelaces. And the very caps of your shoelaces are equivalent to the telomeres on your chromosomes. And so what happens is that every time a cell divides and the DNA is duplicated, so that the two new daughter cells have the same DNA, the DNA is duplicated, the telomeres get shorter. And that's true in every cell of our body. And we know that's very correlated with aging. When the telomeres get shorter, we are older. But it doesn't get short in our reproductive cells. It's the only cell in our body where telomeres don't get shorter. And if they did, then our children would be born with shorter telomeres than we have. And if that was always the case, then if we go back to our great-great-great-grandparents, their telomeres, their kids would have shorter telomeres than them, then their kids would have had shorter telomeres than them, et cetera, till now we wouldn't have any chromosomes left because of the fact that the telomeres got short. So in our reproductive cells, there is no telomere shortening. I discovered the enzyme in our reproductive cells that prevents the shortening of telomeres there, and we call it telomerase. That was discovered in the mid-1990s. And we right away just took that enzyme, or the gene that encodes that enzyme, and put it into normal human skin cells that were grown in a petri dish, and found out that they stopped aging. And actually, to our surprise, they got younger by a whole bunch of different methods of measurement. Now, lots of work's been done now since then, and it's but I'll come back to that later. But that pretty much just defines the definition of telomere and telomerase.
Well, that sounds very promising then. Now, do you know the cause of the shortening? Like, why wouldn't the cell just make an exact replication of itself when it duplicates?
Yeah, the human cell lacks the ability to replicate the very tip of the chromosome when it duplicates itself. I use an analogy of laying bricks on a brick wall, as the top lower bricks might be the original chromosome and you make a new row of bricks on top of that wall, and that's the new chromosome. But the bricklayer is actually standing on top of the wall, moving, stepping backward and laying a brick, stepping backward and laying a brick. And when the bricklayer gets to the very last brick and steps backward, he falls off the wall before he can lay that last brick. And so it's actually the lack of the ability of the cell to replicate the very end of the chromosome, and that's why our chromosomes get short, our telomeres get shorter.
Well, interesting analogy. I'd like to see that in action. Now, do we lose chromosomes when our telomere is shortened?
We always have all the chromosomes. We have 23 different types of chromosomes, and we have 2 of each, so 46. One set from our mother, one set from our father. But just the very tips of the chromosomes get shorter. And so when we're first conceived, we can measure the length of the telomeres. When we're first conceived, the telomeres are about 15,000 bases in length, as I said. But as soon as our cells start to divide, every single division, the telomeres get shorter. It's kind of like ride tickets at an amusement park. Okay, you have a bunch of ride tickets, and every time you go on a ride, which would be like every time the cell divides, you lose a ticket. We only have a certain number of tickets, and so the telomeres are 15,000 bases when you are first conceived. By the time you're born, you've gone through so many cell divisions that your telomeres have already shortened down to 10,000 bases. And then through the rest of your life, your cell divisions that occur, your telomeres shorten even further. But when they get down to 5,000 bases, our cells lose the ability to function. We know this from studying cells in a petri dish. At 5,000 bases, our cells lose the ability to function, and that's when we typically die of old age.
Well, I can't help but notice that our life seems to end then right on the golden mean section, sort of as if the body's saying, well, we've reached the climax here, we've gotten to the best point, so why bother going on? I wonder if there's something to that. Now, you're talking, of course, about an ideal case scenario, correct?
Yes. Okay, so in the very perfect lifestyle, your telomeres are still going to shorten about 50 to 100 bases per year. That's if you're healthy, the perfect healthy person. And that will give you a maximum lifespan. If you do the math on the length and how much you lose per year, that'll give you a maximum lifespan of about 125 years. Nobody's ever actually lived 125 years. The oldest person has been 122. And one of the reasons why most people don't even get anywhere close to that is because there are lifestyle behaviors that actually accelerate the telomere shortening. And that includes smoking, obesity, lack of exercise, stress, and depression. Even pessimism has been shown to cause, if you think you're not going to live to be 100, your telomeres will confirm that, is what it's showing. Household income, people with higher household income have been shown to have longer telomeres, obviously due to reduced financial stress. Children that were abused as children, or people that were abused as children, have shorter telomeres than people that weren't. So stress, so pretty much the things that cause accelerated telomere shortening come under the heading of oxidative stress and inflammation. But it also includes the kind of stress that your boss gives you, which I assume induces inflammation and oxidative stress.
Yes, stress is a killer, and I'm sure a lot of it depends on how we react to our external stimuli. Now, just out of curiosity, where would I go if I wish to know the length of my telomeres?
The place that I recommend is a company called LifeLength, LIFELENGTH, because I think they give the most accurate measurement. Just go to www.lifelength.com and get your telomere lengths measured there.
Okay, well, thanks for that tip. I'll post it below on the video here. Now, here's a quirky question, but I think it deserves a little merit. Tortoises, lobsters, carp, all of these animals have amazingly long lifespans. Now, has anybody looked at their cells? Are they expressing telomerase? And could you take samples of the tissue and in vitro find out what's happening and apply that information to humans?
Yeah, we haven't tested them. Most of the data of testing them has come from Woody Wright and Jerry Shea's lab at University of Texas Southwestern. But they've checked a lot of different animals. But it turns out that pretty much people have not found an old lobster, an old whale, an old clam, an old fish. There's several of these animals that have no detectable aging process. And all of them have telomerase turned on in all their cells and have no telomere shortening. Uh, and it used to be that people thought that telomerase would cause cancer. Well, these animals don't get any cancer either. So it's now known that telomerase doesn't cause cancer. It's the lack of telomerase that causes cancer.
Well, actually, I know a professor who's expressed that exact concern. Interesting. Could you talk a bit more about what you mean when you say telomerase is turned on within a cell?
Okay, well, a gene, produces the stuff that gives you your eye color, your hair color. Uh, a gene can be turned on and off like a light switch. So in the case of like in our reproductive cells, that light switch is turned on, so telomerase is being produced from a gene. And in all the other cells, that switch is turned off, so that telomerase is not produced from that gene. And so our research is trying to find ways of providing yourself with chemicals, natural products, or whatever that will get inside your cells and turn that switch back on.
Well, personally, I like that Isagenix is using all natural botanicals. Now, what is your part with Isagenix and Product B?
Okay, well, what we're doing is we're testing natural products that John Anderson at DreamMaster, another company called DreamMaster, sends us. And we check these natural products to see if they induce the expression of telomerase in vitro, that is, in the test tube. So we have human cells in petri dishes, and we test to see if when we add this natural product, does that cause the telomerase gene to turn on? We've tested, approximately about 10,000 different natural products, and we found about 15 that actually do turn on the telomerase gene. And so Isagenix has combined we call them hits, all of them into one canister, and it's called Product B.
15 hits. Well, that seems like a lot. So then what's to stop me from going out and buying all 50 ingredients and mixing them together and taking that? Would it make any difference?
It would be different, but it would also be tremendously more expensive. Buy all those things individually. One thing we learned about John Anderson, the guy who's providing these natural products, is he has a gift, and he wasn't given it. He earned it. He's been a hard worker in the natural supplement field. He has learned how to extract natural products in a way that far exceeds anybody else's, because a lot of the things that are hits in that list of ingredients, we've gone ahead and acquired from other places, and they don't work. So it has to do with, you can extract a plant, and during the extraction you can do things like with too harsh a chemical or something like that that would inactivate a lot of ingredients in there, whether it be kind of solvents that you might mix that could inactivate things. And John Anderson just has a proprietary style, which I don't even know what it is, for extracting proteins from plants and other natural things that make natural products without destroying these things. So I don't recommend buying them individually and trying them, because they don't work in our lab. So I don't think they're going to work elsewhere.
Oh, well, that's good to know. So Product B really is a very unique product. Now, it has the 15 hits, so does that mean it will actually regrow my telomeres or just maintain them at status quo now?
The plan is to actually grow the telomeres, but you got to think of it like a tug of war. You've got two sides pulling on a rope. You've got the shorteners and the lengtheners. The shorteners are pulling to lengthen. In the absence, in almost all of our cells in our body, we only have shorteners. We don't have any lengtheners at all. So the shortening is going at about 50 to 100 bases per year. You can add people to that side, and that's what the accelerated telomere shortening is. You can add people to the shorteners by being obese or smoking, etc. Or you can take them away by taking antioxidants or vitamin D or omega-3 fatty acids, things like that. But that part will only decrease the rate of shortening. Now, if we could add lengtheners, and that's really the goal here, but the clinical studies aren't done yet, so we can't really say that Product B does lengthen the telomeres, even though in vitro we've been able to show that they do turn on the telomerase gene or cause expression of the telomerase gene. We can't say that yet for people, but let's say that it was happening, Well, then you're adding lengtheners to the other side of the tug of war rope. And at first, you only are going to, because let's say you have like 5 people on the shortener side and you put 1 person on the lengthener side. So that's a lengthening, but the net result is that you're still losing, you're still shortening. Okay, but you're losing at a slower rate, which should extend human lifespan and delay the decline of health and all that stuff.
Okay. So I know Isagenix has a big announcement coming out this June on the latest breakthroughs for Product B, so we'll be looking forward to that. Now I understand that you plan on running an ultra marathon at age 130, is that correct?
Yeah, well, what I say is at 130, I plan on running a 7-minute mile.
Okay.
Yeah, the reason is because there is this theoretical maximum that we can't live longer than 125, and we now know it's because of the telomere shortening. But I figure that I can, when I live to be 130, I'm going to have proven that we have, quote, cured aging, which a lot of people object to me using that term because they say that aging isn't a disease. But I always say, when we cure it, you will call it a disease. But I think that if I can beat 130, then I've cured it. But I don't think it's going to mean anything if I'm bedridden with tubes sticking out of me, just with machines keeping me alive. So I have to show that I'm healthy. So I'm going to run a 7-minute mile when I'm unassisted, 7-minute mile when I'm 130, and that's going to be the proof that we've actually cured aging.
We'll all be there at the sidelines cheering you on. And how many capsules a day do you take?
I take 2 in the morning and 2 at night.
Well, I take 6 a day, and I've heard of people doing up to 20 or more a day, and they don't seem to have any ill side effects from it, so that's good, I guess, because it's all natural. And now, what got you interested in this particular line of research?
When I was a little kid, I was just very interested in science and medicine, and my father just came up to me one day when I was like 10 years old and said, you know, Bill, when you grow up, you should become a doctor and cure aging. And he said, I'll never forget that. He said, I don't know why nobody's done that yet. This is 50 years ago, my father was saying this. And still today, I meet people that don't understand the concept of curing aging.
So would Product B be a benefit then to a person who smokes, doesn't exercise, and lives less than an ideal healthy lifestyle?
Yeah, it's like a tug of war. It's like a tug of war. You've got both sides going. It's just not going to help you as much. So instead of like 5 people on the shortener side, you're now putting 10 people on the shortener side. And by taking Product B, you might be putting, assuming we have to wait for the clinical data to say, you might be putting 1 person on the lengthener side. But you'll slow down the aging process a little bit, but you'd be better off without those 5 extra people on the shortener side.
Okay. And then for a healthy person, would Product B then get rid of wrinkles, gray hair, and maybe make you look visibly younger?
Well, there's no clinical studies yet to confirm that. But I can tell you that the whole concept of lengthening telomeres, regardless of Product B, has been very positive in demonstrating all kinds of things with skin and other organs in the body. In fact, so back in 2000, there was a study done where scientists that actually used to work with me at Geron Corporation, they took cells, human cells, and grew them on the skin on the back of a mouse, and they were able to treat them to lengthen the telomeres or not treat them, and they found out that when they treated old cells and then grew them on the back of the mouse, they actually looked young. The wrinkles were gone, the age spots were gone. They were probably too small to be looking at age spots, but they could look to see that they didn't form blisters as easily. When you get older, you get blisters a lot easier. So by every method they could analyze, they could see that the skin had become younger. The coup de grace experiment so far has been an experiment done by Dr. Rhonda Pinto at Harvard, where he lengthened telomeres through a gene therapy type approach, where he lengthened telomeres in old mice, and the mice actually got younger in every way measurable.
Well, I'm glad to hear that the mice actually benefited from this experiment, and that shows great promise. So it seems you're really on the right track here.
No, I agree. I'm not that in favor of animal studies either, but These mice, they could not remember how to go through a maze. They couldn't breed anymore. They lost their sense of smell. Brain sizes got smaller. All these things were reversed after the telomeres were lengthened. And that's the future. I mean, product B, but even product B is not expected to do something like that. Even when we do get the clinical studies, it's not expected to be that potent. But future product Bs, I expect to.
So product B is evolving and still getting better. Do you see it always being just botanicals, or?
Yes. Oh no. It's a new view to me. I've been a pharmaceutical scientist for many years, and Anderson and getting into the supplement world is enlightened me a lot. I still don't condemn the pharmaceutical approach, because I think a lot of the reason why pharmaceutical drugs are bad for you is because the business part of large pharma often fire all the scientists and take it on their own to get the product on market when the scientists say it's not ready yet. Because products, a lot of pharmaceuticals have side effects that could be removed through a process called medicinal chemistry, but a lot of the pharmaceutical companies don't want to spend the extra money to do that.
The almighty dollar always seems to rule. So there's another telomere project out there called TA65, and I understand that you were involved in the inception of that. Could you talk a little bit about TA65 and how it compares to product B?
Yeah, that's where I discovered telomerase, or led the research that discovered telomerase. It was just before discovery of TA65 that I left to start my own research company. And it's a fact that TA65 does work. We verified it in our labs. And product B is also a product that works in our lab. So I really don't want to get into comparing the two products.
Well, what's definitely better about product B is the price. $550 for TA65 compared to $77 for product B.
One other difference is that product B is getting better and better. They have research still underway.
That's good to know.
Yes. No, and I mentioned before the company called LifeLength. Telomere length measurement is a brand new protocol. It works really good for large population studies because there's just a lot of variance in the data. And so to really see the effect, you have to have a lot of people and just graph all their data. But LifeLength, I think, is the most accurate. It actually looks at not the average telomere length, it looks at the percent of telomeres that are critically short. And I think it's a lot easier and more accurate to measure that. And it gives us a lot more meaningful answer, because nobody really knows why the average length of a telomere would have anything to do with aging, but the percent of short ones, and when you accumulate a lot of short ones, there's easy explanations as to why that affects your health.
And what about product B? Have you completed any clinical studies linking it to telomere length and degenerative disease?
Well, again, clinical studies are not completed on product B. It's only been in existence for 2 years. Clinical studies are underway, but we can't do them all at the same time. So clinical studies that are underway right now are just verification that it does lengthen telomeres. Now, there's lots of other studies showing that almost every disease we've ever heard of is correlated to the length of our telomeres. And the thing I always say is, and what every study shows, is that bad things happen when telomeres get short. There's nothing wrong with long telomeres, but short telomeres wreak havoc inside of our cells and are responsible for practically every disease we've ever heard of. And that includes cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's, osteoporosis, muscular dystrophy, to name just a few. And
could you include autism in that list?
Autism, there is some studies associating telomere length with autism. There's not quite a perfect understanding as to why, but it does come down to the fact that our immune system plays a really big role in a lot of things, even in brain functions and stuff. And it might be that just our keeping the telomeres long in our immune cells is really the most important thing we can be doing. A lot of anti-aging scientists believe that the number one cause of aging is a weakened immune system. But there is other tissues and stuff like that that need to have long telomeres. But the bottom line is that when telomeres get short, that's bad for you. And if we have time, I could cite a few examples of some of these diseases.
Well, thank you for that offer. I don't want to take up too much of your time because I know you're so busy. But tell me, are all the ingredients in product B then chosen specifically for their ability to induce telomerase?
Well, I meant to say this earlier. Okay, so product B does contain the ingredients that we have been able to show induces the expression of telomerase in vitro. But there's also other ingredients in there, okay, that are designed to do the reduction of the accelerated telomere shortening. And so antioxidants like N-acetylcysteine is in there. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. Alpha lipoic acid is in there. Vitamin E, I think, is in there. These things will help reduce oxidative stress, but there's also anti-inflammatories in there that will help reduce, because inflammation causes accelerated telomere shortening too. There's 50 products, but we've only discovered like 15 different products that induce the expression of telomerase in vitro.
Oh, interesting. So it has like a two-pronged plan of attack, as it were, inducing telomerase and anti-inflammatory action.
And omega-3s help, but omega-3s come with the Ageless Essentials, which also contain product B.
Oh, all right. And what about hormone production? Are there any studies linking product B to a better hormonal balance in the body?
I'm not aware of any study. Okay, again, I can't talk about product B because there are no clinical studies, but I can talk about published, scientifically peer-reviewed journal articles about telomere lengths. And I'm not aware of any that actually show a relationship with hormones, but they should. I mean, I would have every expectation that when you lengthen the telomeres, what you're doing is you're pretty much just changing the gene expression patterns of all the genes back to a young phenotype, or phenotype meaning characteristic.
Okay.
So I would expect that lengthening telomeres will cause a reversal of the decline of several of the hormones.
Great. So it seems that telomere therapy is a very holistic approach, not just to longevity, but overall health in the body. And if we don't do anything and just ignore our telomeres, what do you see happening in the body?
Okay, well, let's talk about cancer first.
Okay.
As I was saying, it used to be thought by many scientists that turning on or producing telomerase inside our cells would cause cancer. Now we know that it's actually the lack of telomerase that causes cancer. What happens is short telomeres are what causes cancer. When telomeres get really short, it's just like in that shoelace analogy what I was talking about. When the caps on our shoelaces get really short, chromosomes start to fall apart. They start to rearrange and have mutations. And, you know, I was a cancer researcher for 15 years and still am. I got into telomere biology. Every single time I've ever looked at cancer cells in the microscope, I've always seen rearranged chromosomes. Like a portion of chromosome 3 would be fused to a portion of chromosome 12, portion of chromosome 11 would be fused to a piece of chromosome 17. These are rearrangements that occur because the chromosomes start falling apart and rejoining, and these cause the mutations that cause cancer. So keeping telomeres long will decrease the chance that the cell becomes cancer. Not completely, but a lot. Now, also, there are doctors that say that we all get cancer 7 times a day. Yeah, but our immune system is so effective at fighting the cancers that we never know it. It kills the cells before we know it. But if the telomeres in our immune cells get short, then our immune cells can't fight the cancer anymore. And that's another reason why we get so much more cancer when we're older. So if we could keep our telomeres long, this would be a way to prevent cancer. And also, if we could keep telomeres long in our immune cells, it would help us fight the cancer if we already had cancer.
Wow, that's big. I've read 1 in 4 people will be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime. And with all the toxins being introduced into our environment, such as chemtrails, GMOs, pesticides, oh God, there's fracking in the water, there's radiation, corrects it, the list just goes on and on. So this really seems to be a critical product for our time. So have you altered your diet at all to support your telomeres, and would you recommend any specific foods?
Well, what I try to eat is a lot of protein, really, and try to stay away from, the bad fats and stuff.
Now, was the CoQ10 added to product B specifically for its ability to support the mitochondria?
Yes, and CoQ10 is either in Ageless Essentials or in product B, but it is very important for maintaining good health of your mitochondria.
And in that case, could a person who is weight training use product B to help increase muscle mass?
It's like, does it help build muscles? I don't know of any reason to suspect, but it might. But I get worried that when weightlifters lift a lot of weights and stuff and they tear their muscles apart, there's a lot of cell division that then fills in the gaps, and that's how your muscles get bigger. I'm afraid that cell division is actually causing telomere shortening. And so I think that anybody who's actually working on weightlifting and stuff like that should be doing whatever they can to maintain their telomere lengths. I always say, what's the point of living a long time if you're not living? And having big muscles and stuff like that is some people's idea of a great way to live, and I can't disagree with them. So it's like a benefit. There's a lot of things that our people like to do that make them happy and stuff like that that can cause telomere shortening. I think they should still do it, because what's the point of living a long time if you're not living? Plus, we will have something in the near future. Product B will get better and better and better, and it will correct those problems someday.
It almost sounds like you're on the verge of a big breakthrough. Can you actually talk about what's coming down the pipe for Product B?
I think I'll say this honestly, I believe we're going to have something that will lengthen our telomeres, make us younger like the mice were in the Harvard study in 3 years.
Holy shit, man. That's amazing. Pardon my French. Well, 3 years is nothing. Definitely, I am in.
The rate that we're going extrapolates very clearly to 3 years or less.
Wow. Okay. So, do you know of any studies linking emotional health, mental health to telomere length?
Happiness makes your telomeres longer.
And if a person uses Product B, would it make them happy?
I guess indirectly it would, because a lot of people are really happy with themselves after taking Product B for 3 weeks or longer, and that makes them happy.
I have to say, the word happy is kind of a funny sounding word in itself. Now, somebody was asking about ALS. Do you know if there's any relation between telomere length and ALS? Could you speak to that point?
Well, the question is, does ALS damage telomeres first? It might cause accelerated telomere shortening, and if it does shorten them, then something. Okay, I can't make medical claims about Product B, but if we did have something that we had a clinical study showing that lengthens telomeres, that should lengthen telomeres in any type of cell, whether it's ALS or something else.
Okay.
Will I have an opportunity to say something about the future research and how we're going to be getting something that can actually possibly reverse aging in 3 years?
Yes, please go ahead.
Because all this depends on a lot of research getting done, and that all needs funding. Now, Product B, every time somebody buys a bottle of Product B, a portion of that goes directly into our research. And so what I am on a mission right now to do is to try to encourage people not to just buy Product B for their health and for their wealth, but to also get it to promote the research, to make Product B better, faster, and also help get the clinical studies done. So I'm making myself available to speak to audiences, whether it's the Isagenix groups or horse shows or auto clubs or athletic events. But the most important thing I'm doing is that I'm encouraging others to get out there and speak. And I am making all my slides available to anybody that wants them. And I'm also making videos that you've already have there that show how I present these slides. People can get out there and do them. And I'm encouraging not only people to get these slides and look at the presentations and make the presentations themselves, but I'm telling them, when they talk to people, tell them to get the slides and make the presentation. So I think we can increase the promote Product B sales exponentially that way, which will really, really help benefit the research, which will make it so that we can really have something in 3 years and have all the clinical data to support it too. So in order to get my slides, all I got to do is send an email. And are you going to include my email in your website?
I think what I'll do is take your email, and if anybody in the audience actually signs up and starts getting Product B on AutoShip, I will happily forward your email to them, and they can make use of your slides and pictures and whatnot.
Can I also make one statement about cancer?
Absolutely.
I was talking about cancer. A paper just came out just this last week showing that cells in women's breasts are actually have shorter telomeres, and that this is actually now thought to be the cause of why breast cancer is so much more prevalent in women than other kind of cancers and in men. So it's like saying that maybe the best thing we could be doing to prevent breast cancer is to actually lengthen the telomeres in the breast somehow. And this is, I think, really exciting data. It just was published, and people can get more information, or they can Google, search for the paper, or they can get it from me. But I'm very excited about this latest announcement.
Yes, that's great news, and it's good to get the word out. Well, I personally know of 3 people who've had really amazing results using Product B. There were some serious thyroid issues with one woman. Somebody else had a hunchback that was straightened out. There was ongoing degenerative chronic fatigue syndrome that was cured amazingly. And I've heard of a whole host of other health-related issues that people have had really good results on.
Again, these are all testimonials. There's no way to confirm that it was actually the ingredients in Product B that did it, or it was maybe other ingredients in Product B that had nothing to do with telomere lengthening that might have done it. But and I'll tell you, I can start with my own testimonials. My endurance running has improved tremendously, and that's what the thing I hear most is that people say their endurance has gotten better. I'm 61 years old right now. Last year, at the age of 60, I broke every distance record that I've ever run. And
Wow.
that's everything except for the 1 mile and the 10K. I ran a sub 5-minute mile in high school. This time I could only do a 6:30 mile last year at 60 years old. I ran a 42-minute 10K when I was in my 30s. Now I can only do a 45-minute 10K. But all the other distances, the 5K, the half marathon, the 50 mile, the 50K, the 100K, the 100 mile, all those distances, I broke my fastest. And I've been running since I was 10 years old. I've been competing in endurance sports since I was 10 years old. So this is a pretty significant change in myself at 60 years old. I've been doing ultra marathons for 20 years. And so for me to suddenly break all my records, break the records I set it when I was in my 40s is pretty astronomical as far as I'm concerned.
Wow.
The other things I saw, age spots disappear on my hands. My vision's gotten better.
Yes, my wife's as well.
A lot of other people have seen those same type of things. Other people are saying that they're seeing their hair color come back, their hair coming back. But again, as I want to reemphasize, these are all testimonials, no clinical data. And it's too bad because we really need some double-blind, placebo-controlled experiments to verify some of these things.
Well, that is what you're working on, correct? So when can we expect to see the results from that?
2 years. Actually, maybe even less than 2 years now.
2 years. Well, okay. I'll be looking forward to that. And in the meantime, I'll be taking my Product B. Well, Dr. Andrews, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me and sharing your expertise. It's been a great honor and a pleasure talking to you.
Well, thank you very much.
Take care and keep up the good work.
Thank you.